So my Pearl really is an invitation for the school leaders listening to refine their systems so they become more effective, but also more efficient. Last year, I took a course with Simon Breakspear out of Australia, and he began the course distinguishing between three terms, two of which are almost always used interchangeably in schools, and one of them I find is used a little less frequently, and they are efficacy, effectiveness, and efficiency. And he defined these efficacy as doing things, effectiveness as doing the right things, and efficiency as doing the right things right, or doing them well. And in many industries, there's this relentless pursuit of efficiency, right? And there's a lot of models and frameworks to help with this continuous improvement, things like Scrum and Agile, Lean Six Sigma, DMake. I think it was Heinrich yesterday mentioned quickly in the chat, PDCA, and a bunch of different flavors of design thinking cycles. And what these models are trying to do is to eliminate, reduce, or mitigate what I'm going to call micro impacts. These micro impacts are a little bit like a mosquito bite. And here's a little story and an analogy to illustrate what this problem looks like. In 2012, I was in Latvia with a day to spare after taking kids on a volleyball trip. And I've done the sites already, and I decided to do something different. So I went in search of Latvia's famous blue cows. At the time, there was fewer than 15 of them in the country. And I was told that if I went on this hike, I would increase my chances of spotting and be able to photograph one. So I took a train, went out to the coast, and about a minute into this hike, there were so many mosquitoes, no bug spray in sight, and it was just really, really overwhelming. So I basically had two choices, right? I could either leave or be miserable in this hike. And if the mosquitoes had been few and far in between, that would not have been a problem, but there was just too many of them, so I left. And I'm going to mention a few examples of what these mosquito bites or these micro impacts in schools could look like from no particular school. So here's a few of them. An evening email with multiple actionable items buried in the text. An evening email asking you to read something for tomorrow. A Zoom meeting invite, followed by an email saying, I've sent you a Zoom link invite. A meeting that doesn't address the reading you're asked to do the night before. I know you've heard this one before, a meeting that should have been an email. Now some of its cousins. A spreadsheet that should have been a form, a Google Doc that should have been a spreadsheet, a Padlet that should have been anything but, a Google form that should have been a conversation. So poor use of digital tools, not knowing what to use when, invariably leads to these micro impacts. Just ask any teacher or most teachers, I would say, how they feel about ManageBack. And all areas of the school can cause these micro impacts, right? So things like having to take an afternoon off to sit in the bank for an hour every time you want to send money out of the country, failing to welcome and induct new coaches to the athletic program. And this is one of my favorites. If your school has a networked inkjet printer, you should know that every day it pisses someone off. Now, nobody has ever left the school for any of the reasons I just mentioned, right? So nobody at a job interview, when they're asked, why you're leaving your current school, nobody's ever said like this printer in the staff room never works. But there's a chance that many of these happen and other micro impacts happen at our schools, and they cost staff time, cognitive space, and maybe for a fraction of a second, their sanity. They affect relationships, and all of these impact staff well-being and morale negatively, a reason for which teachers do leave schools, just like I left that park in Latvia. So my Pearl really is an invitation for the school leaders listening to refine their systems so they become more effective, but also more efficient. If the examples I listed here today sounded familiar, two good places to start are adopting an email charter and getting every school leader in the building Google for Education certified. I'm going to post a few links in the chat that can help with that. You may also leave this course at the end of the week with a new or improved professional growth appraisal document for your schools. Your hope certainly is that it will help your school do the right thing for your students. I invite you to consider now and continuously how to make it more efficient and user-friendly for the people in your systems. Thank you.